What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Podcast this week, the one and only Blythe. Blythe is the vocalist on my new single, Pray. And we get into that. She has an insane voice. She's also on another record on the album for when that comes out on November the 8th. I love this girl. We've only recently kind of been put in touch. You'll hear the whole story behind it. But I love what she does. I love her demeanor of how she holds herself and how she talks openly about her life. This podcast, we covered a lot about mental health, a lot about how to grow in the industry and kind of how to kind of grow as a human being. There's a little politic talk, which I never do, so I apologize for anybody, but it all kind of ties in with the music culture and music theme. I really enjoyed this. It was a deep conversation. So hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, Blythe. Right, we're live. Miss Blythe, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Do you like to be called Blythe?
Blythe, yeah. That is my name.
It's my name.
Yeah.
How's life?
How's life name. How's life?
Yeah.
It's good. I'm recovering from whatever's been going around, so that's annoying. But apart from that, everything is, really pretty good at the moment. I'm very excited about our track coming out.
Well, it's out. By the time this podcast comes out, it's out.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. I'm very excited about the track having already come out.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, let's talk about it. So I got put in touch with you from one of my best friends, Mika, aka Rose Riot. I think we got put in touch before we started even talking about doing a re-sing, right?
Yeah. I think Mika was like, I think you should work with Will and put us in touch. Yeah. And then I was like, hi.
It was very random.
I was like, why are we in touch again? You're like, well, we might make music.
Yeah, why not? YOLO. Because I don't think any of us had heard of each other before. So it was like, fuck it. Random conversation. So
we were talking about. Heard of you before.
Pardon?
This happens to me all the time. I should have heard of you already, and I haven't.
No, you shouldn't have at all. And it's even better when somebody hasn't, right? Because I think it then takes all expectations out and it's just purely down to art. And I think that's the most beautiful side of it, right?
That is really nice. Yeah.
In my idea, anyway. I think it's the same in relationships. Like, I don't know about you, but like we're kind of going a bit off of it already, but
here we go.
Like, I've always said this for me is like, if I was to be in a relationship, I'd always want to be with somebody that doesn't know me beforehand because of what I do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's like, would you want to be with somebody that knew you as a singer and was a fan of you as a singer before actually getting to know them? I think it's like and I feel the same about sometimes in about studio sessions. I think when you're both in there going, I don't have a fucking clue what this person does or who this person is, but I love their voice and I love their writing. I think there's like I think it's just completely equal playing field.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think that's probably why I have such a bad memory and I'm not the kind of person to sort of look, have a kind of database of all the people that I want to work with and the producers that they've worked with and like the hierarchy and stuff. I think it's because I do like to just kind of be, this sounds really wanky, but I like to be present. And so when I walk into a room, it's like, oh, hey, yeah. But sometimes that does mean that I don't know who people are who I really should know who they are. And people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Who are you and why don't you know this person?
No, but I think there's something perfect about that.
Yeah. I had it on on the dating thing the other day as well. I was like, they were like, "Oh, I'd love to hear some of your music," and I was like, "No, no, 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 way too early, way too early for this."
Yeah, it's
Let's check if we're politically aligned first.
I see. I don't know if I talking about. I don't ever talk about politics on this podcast because I hate politics. But do you think being politically aligned is actually a thing in a relationship?
I do, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I've never dated a Tory, so. But then I've got one of my most judgmental friends really surprised me the other day, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't think it should come into it." And I was like, "That's really interesting because surely your political alignment, surely that like describes a lot of your values."
See, I disagree.
Do you?
Yeah, because I think politics, realistically, everybody just wants something for their own gain, right? So like your views on what you want is based on your life and maybe other people around you, right? Or like what I want politically is purely based on what I want as a human being and what I feel other people should have. But I just feel like everybody's wants and needs are completely different. So, and I think just the way our politics is in the Western world, you're never going to please everybody. And realistically, we're all the same. All the politicians are the same. Like whether you're a Tory, whether you're a Lib Dem, whether you're whatever, it's all the same to a certain extent. It's just, like whoever's most popular at that time.
I mean, I disagree that they're all the same. I think the system makes it really difficult for people with ethics to do politics, to be politicians in a good way.
Who wants to do it?
I know.
You get paid absolutely shit to run the country. No one wants to do that. Right?
Do you get paid absolutely shit?
They get paid so bad for what they're actually doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does attract people who want to change stuff, but it also attracts people who are egomaniacs, which is a problem. Yeah. I think there's loads of reasons why the system creates bad leaders, sadly, and why it doesn't want to change because it likes bad leaders because it keeps us.
But I guess my question is though, is there ever a good leaders?
Is there ever a good leader? It's a good question.
Because it's no, but that's the thing, right? It's very subjective, right? What your view of a good leader is compared to my view of a good leader could be completely different. I'm pretty sure we align on most thoughts and feelings, but it's very different for everyone, right?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and you know what one would be like when one got into power.
But yeah, I think I don't know. I would prefer I would prefer wage gaps is interesting though, right? Because I don't necessarily think that's a government thing.
What, wage caps or wage gaps?
Wage gaps and wage caps.
Ah, okay. You don't think that's a governmental thing?
No, I don't think I don't think anyone should have the power to say you should only earn a certain amount of money for doing what you do.
But then
because that's also almost like using that in our example, right? It's exactly the same as what's happening at this moment in time. These streaming platforms are saying you're only allowed to earn this much money per stream.
Oh yeah, but that's a completely different thing to people earning trillions, billions of pounds, and then other people not getting paid enough.
Well, no, because they're earning trillions of pounds.
I mean, actually, is anyone earning trillions of pounds? Probably not. Billions. But
I think Elon's just about to be the first trillionaire. But there's people like I can guarantee you like the in the Middle East, there's oil moguls that are trillionaires. They just don't have to talk about how much money they have.
Yeah. I mean, I think it should be relative to inflation, but I'd say about 150,000 a year is about enough for anyone.
You haven't lived in America.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm talking about England here
Yeah,
because I can't speak for America, but
but
you know,
yeah, but I also don't think
I
there
think
should
they should.
be.
I think there could be a number that is like, yeah, no one needs more than that before they're like just
I
taking
th-
it away
I
from
th-
people who really need it more.
I don't disagree with a level of that, but then I guess if that's the cap, then I think everyone should just be able to earn that,
Exactly. Yeah.
uh, and then everyone should be on a level playing field.
Yes.
But does
Basic
I
income.
no
Here we go.
no one's
Come on.
no one's no one's ever on a level playing field ever.
No. What do you mean, level playing field?
Like nothing's ever equal.
No, but that doesn't mean that you can't strive for better equality.
I agree. No, I agree with that.
And we are in very different times to that. Put it that way, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I think it's crazy, you know. Yeah, and there's like bringing it back to music that does bleed into the way things are done in music as well. But I
Massively.
honestly, I should know more about it, and I don't. I need to get into the understanding of the streams business. But
But I think there's also a
I'm
level of it
songwriting
that,
most of the time.
yeah, but I think it's also a level of it is like just creating is just, I think sometimes when you get caught up in it, right? And I can do it, I can speak for myself, is like I can get caught up in the industry boggle, right? But realistically, just need to fucking write music.
Yeah.
And you just got to keep doing it and keep doing it and doing it. And eventually something will pay off and something will happen to the point where everyone then pays attention to you. And you're like, fucking, hey, it
Yeah.
happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn because, like, obviously, I agree with that to a certain extent, but then I completely disagree with it because I feel like when one is in a system which is, which is created unfairly, not necessarily intentionally even, but it has become unfair, then
Yeah.
you get ground down to the point where you're just working to survive. You don't really have your head above the water. You're just like trying to do. And I think at that point, people aren't creating their best work. They don't have then the energy to challenge what's going on systemically. And that's a problem. So yeah, I think it's a
I agree with
mixture
that.
of doing the things, but then don't be someone who's just like taking on the myths of the music world, which is work really hard and then one day you will make it, because that's
Yeah.
bollocks.
Yeah, because like 99% of people don't, right?
Yeah.
And 99% of people won't get to. However, there is a point of carrying on.
Yes.
I think that
But it's
you
got to be
can't.
internal. I think it needs to be intrinsic.
Yeah, it's really interesting though because I spoke to Jem Cook about this yesterday on the podcast,
Ooh.
and like it is a draining industry. It drains you as a human being, but for some reason we still do it, right? Like
Yeah.
you and I could go and get a job in marketing and probably earn a whole lot more money and be way more successful, right?
Yes.
However, we still choose to do this.
Yes, we do.
So then the answer is that, okay, well, we're not doing it just to earn money,
No.
right?
No.
We're doing it because we love it. And I'm not saying everybody in marketing is doing it just to earn money. Some people love it, some people don't, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But there comes a point in these are the choices we make as human beings of going in. We know going into this industry what it's like, right? It's been like it forever, and it will probably remain to be like it in some sort of way. Why do we do that?
I think it's got a lot to do with dreams. I mean, there's so many reasons. One of the
What are
things
your
that I
reasons?
reflect on for my particular generation is I think a lot of people in my group sort of really had these massive artists from when the industry was a completely different space.
Yeah.
That I personally emulated like Radiohead and Björk. That was like, I just wanted to be either Tom York or Björk. That's who I wanted to be when I was younger. And then it took me a long time to realize that I live in a different time and technology has completely transformed and is transforming quicker and quicker what's going on in the industry.
Okay, so let's dig. I want to butt in. I don't, because like where you said you want to be Tom York and Bjork.
I did when I was younger.
You want, yes, but like, how has it changed? How do you feel it's changed? Where you saying it's changed where it won't allow you to get to be that, or are you saying it's changed where you can't even, it's not even comparable?
I think it's fair to say that there is a lot less money in labels as a result of, I mean, there's a lot less money in the industry from record sales because people aren't buying records, they're streaming. And money is being concentrated in smaller and smaller hands within the world of streaming. So it means that even though it was still a wing and a prayer and still a fucking gamble, you know, to go into music in, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even into the 2000s. But now it feels even more of a gamble, to the point where it's like, wow, why, you know, I really need to understand that this is not necessarily going to happen, even if you have an amazing chops at what you do. And also there's so many more people who are able to do it, which is, well, when I say able, I mean have the technological ability to get involved. That doesn't necessarily mean they come from an economic background, which means that they have support enough to be broke.
Totally.
Which sadly I think is happening less. But there is, like, for younger people who are willing to be broke for a bit and give it a go, there is more accessibility to the technology that side of the world.
Oh.
But in terms of actually getting on playlists, you need a label, or you need some kind of serious support or serious social media following to get onto playlists and whatnot. And so that's precluding people who are maybe poorer and also more introverted from us receiving their creativity, which I think is really sad.
No, I totally agree with that. I think you're seeing it more and more where somebody that was successful beforehand, or I think it's always been an industry that at some point somebody with money invests into somebody that into art, right? And like, whether back in the day, in like the old punk days, like labels invested into these crazy ass bands that had absolutely nothing, that came from nowhere, but they still got investment. But there was also back then ways to actually make a shit ton of money. But realistically, a lot of the artists got screwed over then as well.
True.
Right. So I think, like,
and there was probably a lot of money being pumped into
a lot
random things.
Yeah, a lot. But they were
like
they were
music videos.
Yeah. But they were, again, let's talk about music videos. Music videos used to make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
They make fuck all now,
but
right?
we're still expected to make them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if labels are nowadays.
Really?
But I don't think like my label told me that we're not making record labels. We're not making music videos because it costs too much money.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's amazing, because I think it's a part of the art. I think music videos should be made.
Yeah. Well, I personally love it as well. So I do.
But I think what the issue is record labels think that music videos should cost the same as what they used to, and they shouldn't. Like, we live in a day and age where we all have mobile phones, we all have cameras on our phones. We don't need to spend 40 grand on a music video.
True.
We can spend 5 grand on a music video and still make the art look great, and and take it from there. And I think that's the thing. But we're going through this really transitional. You can eat, don't worry, it's fine. We're going through this. I felt like I was a teacher then, and you were in school trying to eat your apple.
I don't know why I did that.
There's just no need for it. Like,
sorry, I think Clarke.
That's just weird. I think we're going through this massive transitional.
Edit, cut that out.
No, this is staying in. I think there's this massive transitional change in culture that I think we're all it's changing, and we're all trying to work out what that change is and where that change needs to go, but all know that there needs to be change.
Yeah, totally. I mean, definitely I say all this stuff and then I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Everything's moving so fucking fast and these days. And also I'm a bit older, so I now realise that I actually don't know anything. When I was younger, I had ideas. Now I'm like, yeah.
It's just too jaded.
Just keep
just
making
too
that
jaded.
music.
Yeah. Talking about music, I want to talk about your project. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still very much in its kind of fruition phase. I'm a terrible chameleon, so which is great in many ways. It means I can do lots of different stuff. But I'm trying to work out the center of my sound, I suppose. So I'm just doing a lot of working with different people, and still trying to make a living whilst I'm doing that. But essentially, it's very exciting for me. I feel like my whole life has been like a journey of working out what to do with this voice thing I've got and my creativity in a way that is more and more aligned with who I am. And the relationship between that and money is an interesting one. And I think I came into sort of this reboot into the world of dance music and beats and then kind of doing my own project again. It's been fascinating because I've been like, okay, you know, this is my career. I'm kind of focusing on it as like, I need to like make enough money every year to survive.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've got a disability. It's going to just get worse over and over time. So I need to like think future-proof myself.
Of
So
course.
I'm thinking about that practically. It's not glamorous, but you have to do that. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do these features, and like, I'm really enjoying working with loads of different people. I'm not really focusing too much on who am I and what am I doing.
Yeah.
But it's inevitably that journey has inevitably come back to me again, and I'm like, oh, okay. So
what was that? What was the tipping
slide.
point? What was the tipping point of that journey came back to you?
So, well, I met my manager, Sarah, I would say two and a bit years ago. And she was the one actually that got me back into sort of doing dance music and more, I guess, more commercial music. Like I'd kind of gone away into the woods and I was just sort of making quite niche stuff.
As we do occasionally.
As we do need to do occasionally.
And then we have to get reined back in.
Yeah. But to be honest, and then I had like my mental breakdown during COVID, and then like a total rebirth basically. And I realised that I'd been suffering from anxiety and depression like my whole life.
Yeah.
And I came out of that and I was like, oh, fuck, I can work with people without, you know, the 10 voices in my head saying, you're a crock of shit. No one wants to work with you. You're going to fuck it up now. All those kind of thoughts. And so they weren't there anymore. And I was like, wow, okay, I can actually sit in a room and I can be in flow and just all these songs are coming out and music's coming out and then people are using my voice. So really it's been like a one step in front of the other. Like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now I'm doing this. And then Sarah became a manager and she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, what? What was that?
Yeah.
It's like, what is it that who do you want to work with? Like, what producers do you want to work with? What artists do you want to work with? And I was like, wow, I don't think, maybe people have asked me that question before and I haven't been in a place to answer it.
Yeah.
But it felt like, wow, I've never been asked that question before. And it freaked the fuck out of me. I was like,
why?
What?
Why?
Why? Self-worth.
Yeah.
Just like, what if I ask the people that I want to work with to work with me, and they're like, and then they realize, or I realize myself, that I'm an imposter in this world. And
Okay,
yeah.
you might not want to go there, all right, on this conversation, but I want to dig deeper onto this because
Uh-oh.
I think I think this is an issue that a lot of people have, not
Yeah.
just in music but in life, right?
Yeah.
And we don't need to go into proper details, but I guess for me is, what is that process for you as a human being to kind of come from having imposter syndrome, having no self-worth, having those voices in your head? What's that process of getting out of that? How long has that taken? What are the things you've done to kind of get out of that?
Wow. A lifetime of work. Yeah, I mean, medication honestly really fucking helped me.
Yeah.
Therapy. I've during COVID, I had time enough to do some therapy. I came out of what I would consider to be quite an abusive relationship with one of my parents, which was really, really hard thing to do. And I also nearly died. It sounds so dramatic. And so like I just had this, like, COVID was just this like crazy, honestly, like I just came through the vagina of a new world. And I was like, I was like, oh my
Yeah, that was
God,
great.
I'm a new
Yeah.
person.
Okay.
And so all of those things really helped. But up to that point and continuing from that point is all the tools that you used on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
And I think number one is I befriended my child self. So I was literally even doing it this morning. Like in the morning I write morning pages. So I write morning pages. I've started again like 5 days ago. So yeah, let's not lie about this.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I will do morning pages, which, if people
Yeah.
don't know what that is, you just free write basically in the morning. It just gets out all of your darkest, weirdest thoughts, and also kind of clears you for the day. But also, it's a way of processing stuff. And within that, I was like, oh yeah, I've forgotten my kid again, like baby Blythe, because I want to be the adult. I don't want to be my child version of myself. I want to be my adult. So
Yeah.
when I remember that she's like sat by me, then I'm like looking after her, and she needs, like, what do you want to give a kid? You want to give a kid like safety, the ability to play and to like be free and express themselves. And I'm talking about part of myself, and that's a lot of the part of me that feeds my creativity.
Totally.
So yeah, just like looking after her is really important. And then also it allows my adult part to be like more responsible. So remembering to eat well, remembering to like just do all the things, have a structure to my life, because when you're in the music world, it's very easy to work into the night or work over the weekend. So those things have really, like, I was like, whoa, 9 to 5, it's actually a thing and there's a reason for it.
Yeah. Structure. It's killer.
Yeah.
It's the best thing, right? It is the best thing.
Yeah, I used to be like, oh my God, that's so boring. But now I realize why it's a thing. And yeah, so things like that, I guess. And yeah, those are the kind of daily tools, exercising, all the basic stuff that allows you to then be a bit mental in the rest of your life without
And
going too mental.
creativity and everything like that. But I think it's really interesting because both my parents are therapists. So it's like,
Oh,
it's really interesting to kind of hear you talk about those things, and kind of also me over the years, like, see that actually work
wow.
for other people as well, and kind of friends and family and all of that. And I think it's amazing when somebody gets their mental health on track. This sounds so stupid. Everyone would be like, of course it makes sense. But I don't think how many people realize is, once you've dealt with or started to deal with issues, started to work on yourself as a human being, how much that frees up your life in a sense of what you can then take on as a human being to help your career, to help your relationships, to help everything else around that. And I think so many people in life, but also in this industry, I'm sure you see it going into sessions sometimes, and people are so bogged down in their own thoughts and their own issues. And sometimes that can be then presented as other things. Like it can then, a lot of people can kind of blame that on other people's and all of that. But I think it is so about looking very insular in yourself and dealing with your own issues and dealing with your own demons. So everyone has them in their own specific way. But how much that actually can free you as a human being to then change your life after that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you talk about there is like balance, basically. Like there's a huge, because you're pushing, it feels like you need to be pushing in music, but actually the more that I allow myself to kind of almost pretend it's no big deal, and actually remember it's no big deal. There's a whole other world out there. There's a whole 50 million other paths that one could be taking. It really helps, like when you've got something super pressureful, like, I don't know, like a video shoot that you're worried about, or you know, a big gig or something, like big opportunity, just to remember that all you're being asked to do is to be yourself. And the things that go around in your head take you out of actually really being able to be in yourself. And so finding that acceptance, I suppose, of who you are in that moment. And like maybe there are things about you in that moment that you would love to change if you had a big red button, but actually if you just accept it, it's one, so much nicer because you're actually in line with yourself, and two, suddenly you're like actually able to, you know, receive the moment of that you're in, whether you're in a recording studio or, you know, on a date. Whatever.
Yeah, totally. But I think it also, I don't know about you, but for me, it also gives me more of a clear mind of exactly what I want and who I want to be around with and what type of music I want to write and who I want to be in the studio with and who I want in my life on a personal level. And I think that just adds to the mix of it just being a healthier lifestyle.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, because you can be more in touch with your instincts, I suppose. Yeah.
So let's go back to Sarah, your manager, asking you, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Let's go from there.
That's where I'm at now. I can't go forward. No, I can. Basically, yeah, I'm in the process of actually thinking about who I want to work with and allowing myself allowing myself to dream about those things happening. And I'm working with a great producer from Canada called Greg Cousin from Keys and Crates, and we've been doing some really cool music that's made us kind of go, oh, maybe that's the sound. Because it feels very, everyone I play it to in my personal life is like, oh, that's you, that feels like you, which I pay a lot of attention to, because I'm like, as I said, I'm a chameleon, so if you put me in a different space, then I can quite quickly make myself believe that I'm cool in that space, you know.
Where does that come from?
Oh yeah. Yes, it comes from living a childhood where I couldn't really be myself, except in song, but even then a little bit, not so much. Yeah, so I think I've learned to adapt to the people around me, to be very sensitive to everyone around me and their needs. And now I'm trying to reorient my own needs without being a dick.
Yeah, because there's that happy balance, right?
Yeah.
it's like you need to be able to tell people that you don't like something or that you want something. But it's like how, if you've never communicated that or never also received that communication in a positive way, how do you then learn to do that in a non-negative way?
Yeah, I find myself, I'm either like super matey and like, yay, you're great and I want your creativity to bloom, so I mustn't say negative things. Or I'm like, it's really fucking, I don't want the toms there. The toms have to change. No toms now.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
And it's
But
like,
I also
how can I be
think
in the middle?
there is a level, I don't know, I can only speak for myself as somebody that is the artist side of it. Like I'm a forward facing artist, but also that sounds wanky as fuck. I hate saying that. But also the like but also like I'm also somebody that produces for other people.
Yeah.
And I think for me is like, on the artist side of things, if I'm working with other producers or other vocalists or other artists for my project, I am brutal. I'm just be like, no, I don't like that. Don't like, it's not good. And I kind of expect that the other way around. If I'm a producer, I'm like, don't let me sit on this fucking idea for the last 2 hours and you haven't told me that you don't like this.
Right. Yeah.
Like let's be efficient here. We're all trying to do something efficiently. Just be honest with me. But again, I think it's about reading the room. I was in a vocal session the other day in LA, not the other day, but a few months ago, and it's completely my fault. Like I fucked the ending of the session up massively because the singer, insane vocalist, like we're mates, but like we'd never written together before. And she was like ad-libbing and doing like literally the finishing touches to it. And halfway through one of the second round of ad-libs, I was like, stop, like this isn't what we're looking for. We need something more on this thing. And it completely threw everything off. Like for only for like 10-15 minutes, there was a weird juju in the room.
Yeah.
But like, and I think sometimes that's just because I was just being way too honest.
Right.
But it is about reading the room, right? And how do you learn that?
Just experience, I think.
Yeah.
And also it depends who you're working with as well, right? I think it's taken me a long time to realize that some people you can communicate really easily with, and some people it just doesn't flow. And it's like, it's like you've put some grit in the machine. So I think my new thing is like trying to find those people where it really flows. But I also need to not pretend that I also don't need to be direct. Yeah. So finding a polite way to be direct is really useful, isn't it? It's like taking your reactivity out of what you're saying. So because sometimes you can hear something on a piece of music that you love where you feel like someone's fucking it up. And you're like, well, no, they're not fucking it up, but something's changed it. And you're like,
yeah,
what the fuck? Inside. And then on the outside, you're like, yeah, I don't quite think that is working. But I can have quite visceral reactions to stuff. And then you want to kind of take out your unnecessary emotional, like you don't need to be angry about it.
Yeah.
But, honor that for yourself and then go, okay, I think these hi-hats are really overdoing it at the moment.
These hi-hats are shit.
These hi-hats
Change
shit.
them.
What the fuck do you think you were thinking?
You are a shit engineer.
Come back to me when you have learned something.
It is so much like that, right? It's like, and I say this about sessions all the time, and I generally try and go into a session without any agenda, unless there is an agenda that needs to be done. But generally, if there is an agenda, you both know, right? You both know, like, okay, we need to do this or we need to do that.
Well, like in a writing session.
Yeah, like when I'm going into a writing session, I'm just like, I'd rather go along with the writer, with the person that's kind of, I don't necessarily like to go in with a direction because you just never know how that person woke up that morning.
Yeah.
And I ideally even if we're writing supposed to be writing a song for me as a Will Clarke song,
Yeah.
that person that's came in might have had the shittest day or the shittest week or the shittest month, broken up with their partner, had an argument with their parents, whatever, and just wants to write a song for whatever they want to write a song for.
Yes.
And use the session as a therapy. And I think that's, for me, is like going into it and going and not having expectations. I think that's where in my opinion, I find sessions become way healthier.
Yes, totally. Yeah,
That
I am still, and have a great relationship with Yarli, who's a producer from Sweden. And whenever we get into the studio, I mean, talk about flow, it really blows. But like the first thing that happens, we just have a chat.
Yeah.
Just have a chat about whatever, and often it like becomes quite philosophical. And then we're like, oh shit, let's write a song about that. And then, you know, it's like there's like a sort of check-in, which I really like. I just like kind of going in and being like, da da
What
da
we
da
doing?
da immediately.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, let's connect together
Yeah.
first. But it's not even conscious with me and Yarli. It's just like, oh, you're right. Like what?
What's been going on?
Boring domestic stuff, and then oh shit, we should write about that. Let's go.
I think it's so important, and I don't know, but I think the connection between the both artists in a studio is so important. And I think for me is like, you might write a great record first time round, right? But like, I think the more times you go in with a room with the same person and you feel more comfortable with each other,
yeah,
you're building a relationship. And like writing this album that's coming out that you're on twice, Greedy, it's, for me, the whole process has been about like relationship building and how that has like changed how I want to write music in the future.
That's so nice.
And I think that's it, is like, I think it's very easy to get into the commercial side of this world of, we need to write hits and we need to write music that's going to sell well and is going to make money because we all need to earn money. There's that part of it, but also realistically, what is art? And art, in my mind, is therapy for everybody. It's therapy for the people creating it, and it's therapy for the people consuming it. So why look at that in a commercial sense? Like, let's look at this as something where everyone's going to gain. Like, I'm sure even like with the music that you've put out, you've had the odd DM, the odd person that's gone, this has literally talked me off an edge. This has helped me get through my breakup. This has helped me with my relationship with my family. This song makes me so happy. It's done this. It brings back these memories and all of that. And I think that all of that can kind of get forgotten about in this day and age to a certain extent, when it comes to writing music, because there's so many people that just churn out music and churn out music and churn out music for the sake of being commercial.
Yeah, it sounds so lovely, this process for your album. I love it sounds like it's been a real learning journey for you.
Yeah, it really has, because I think for me, I've always been the producer, like over the years when I was strictly doing like house and techno, it was like me in a room finding samples, me like vocalizing records, me doing everything myself, literally in this room for the last like 12, 15 years, if you know what I mean. And I think I've collabed over the years, but I've never really been in many studios with other people working on Will Clarke projects. It's always been for other people. And I think for me, it was like, okay, I want to build something where I'm not worried about my skills, if you know what I mean. I can write a record. I don't have any ego in this. So how do I bring the best people together that can write the best possible music for what I want to do? And yeah, it's been amazing. And realistically, I don't really want to change that process now. I want to carry on doing it like that.
Awesome.
And every song that's on the album, I wrote with somebody, and I've produced it and I mixed it with the mix engineer. Like there's not been a single process where I've not been in the room.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like we can get into the re-sing. Like there's two re-sings on the album, in a sense of two artists. So you have re-sung a record and Karen Hardin re-sung a record. But apart from those recording sessions where you recorded the re-sing, I've been in the room since day from all of it. And I think I can't really speak for anyone, but this is my personal view, is like there's so many records that aren't written by the people that are putting their names to it, and it doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I do find it quite weird.
Yeah.
I find it weird. Yeah, I mean, I've heard about the whole, like 30 producers corporation vibes, naming no names. And I'm like, really? Like, what is this now?
Yeah.
But I mean, then again, I don't know, like, I guess there is a place for everything, but it feels odd that, records like yours, it feels weird when people lie about it, I suppose.
Yeah.
When people are sort of like, yes, this is my heart music, and they know 100% they did not write a fucking thing on it. Yeah. It's like, wow, you're really doing that. But I mean, there is something to be said for the fact that, being these days, there is so much involved in being the front of something.
Yeah.
Like in Volts, for example, everyone thinks I wrote that material, which I didn't. Ben wrote it. Who's the guitarist in the band. And he was the writer, and then Barney was the producer, and I was the singer. And we all agreed at the beginning, because we knew how much work producing was going to be, we knew how much writing was going to be, and we knew how much being the front person was going to be, and the singer. And we all agreed, actually, that feels very equal. So we gave each other equal writing credits. I mean, much to Ben's generosity, really, because he could have raked in a lot more cash from that. And I still feel really weird when people assign me. People assume that I've written it.
Yeah.
I think on Spotify it says Volts as a group, and I have to sometimes stop myself from kind of going, oh, by the way, I didn't write it, because by the time they're sending me a message saying, oh, I love this piece of music and blah blah blah, I kind of don't really want to spoil their day by just being negative about it. But I guess what I'm saying is that in some areas, I can understand, having been through that project, that there is such a lot that goes on as a front person, or as like, that I can understand why people would be like, okay, this needs to be that person's job, and then the writing needs to be over here, because it becomes this massive machine, especially when you're getting into super commercial, super pop. So I can understand that, but then there are times when it's like, come on, guys, that you didn't write that, and you're not even close. You're sitting in a hotel somewhere on the other side of the planet, going, I like that one. Yeah, that'll be my next track. It's like, what? What are you doing?
It's weird because for me, the whole like what you were kind of explaining with Volts, is like, that sounds like a collab. It's like a collaborative kind of agreement, right? And I think that when it's like that, well, look at Coldplay, right? The reason why in my view, and I don't know them personally, but the reason why I believe Coldplay is so successful and still is, not just because they write fucking great records, is because everything's equally split on the writing. And I think
I didn't actually know that.
But I think, like, you're all in it together, right? Yes. Okay. Chris Martin wrote the song, but realistically, it takes the flavor of the drummer, it takes the flavor of the guitar player, it takes you all touring your asses off, leaving your family, leaving your kids, leaving your friends. Like, it's a collaborative thing to be successful in a band. And I'm a firm believer of collaborating and equal splits on things. I think it's just the way it should be, in a grand scheme of things, until it gets to the point where you have a massive artist, somebody writes a record for them, they have nothing to do with it, and then that massive artist wants to take 90% of it because they're the massive artist. That's when it's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. 100%.
Let's talk about Prey. Let's talk about Prey.
Yes, what a track!
What a track! Yeah, it's out, people. Go stream it. We need all of you to go and stream it.
stream.
Yeah. So this, how do we even talk about this?
I want to interview you about this.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Tell me about the lyrics.
I'm a weird person when it comes to lyrics. There's only really one track on the album where I really pushed lyrics into the song. With this one, it was all Hayla coming up with there was a process between her and I.
Yeah.
But realistically, I had zero cares on what the actual song was about.
Okay.
I'm more of a melody type of guy. Like, does the lyrics fit the melody? Does the melody carry the record? Then if it does, I don't really care about what the lyrics are saying. You could literally be talking absolute waffle.
Is that true though? Because it sounds like you're still wanting an alignment between the lyrics and the melody.
Completely true.
Which I feel is, I mean, Hayla's done a great job there. Like,
it's don't get me wrong. Like, if she was singing about something random that didn't make sense, then yeah, I guess we would both probably feel that and go, hang on a minute, that contradicts itself. But I think so many songs contradict themselves lyrically,
right? Yeah.
In my opinion, just to get the melody through. And let me pull up the lyrics. I'm also terrible at remembering lyrics, and I think this is like, I've got songs that I've written and I still don't know the lyrics. Like, I still can't remember them.
There's a feeling when you walk in.
But you never stay.
Yeah.
I'm longing for a moment, but that you never take.
It's full of longing, this song.
Pardon?
It's full of longing.
Yeah, and I think when going back to, like, I could relate that to so many times in life, right? Like, and I think I can relate to a lot of things of that, especially over the last few years. But like, realistically, going into this session, it was never, we want to write about this.
Right. Yeah.
There was a chord progression that I wrote, and Hayla came up with a melody, and we put lyrics to it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And Hayla's great at the like long held kind of notes that holds out one word.
Yeah.
Like, she did it with Escape when we wrote Escape. She did it with Prey when she wrote Prey. She's done it over and over again on her records, and that's kind of like what she does really well. And then myself, and I then brought the record out of that session with the complete song, and Mitch Jones and I went and wrote the music side to it.
Right.
And then it turned into what it is today. So I think like the process of it that was the process of the whole album for me.
Wow.
There was only one record called Memories, which was written way later, because one of the songs that we had, we couldn't use. And that was the only song that kind of got written with an agenda from myself on lyrics wise, realistically, and what the context of it is talking about.
Right. Yeah.
It's more so I like, how does this record make you feel, rather than what do the lyrics mean.
Yeah, because your job is also to curate, like you're curating the music together, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of an album. If people are still listening to albums, it's like a journey,
Yeah.
a period of time, like a journey. It's almost like, yeah, a meditation in a certain field of emotion or a certain person's time of life, which I love that so
Yeah.
much.
No, it's important. So yeah, then Halo couldn't be on the record,
Yes.
and this is when you came involved.
Yay. I got
And
an
I can't remember
opportunity to do it.
I can't remember. You were the first person I hit up about it.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, no, that's a lie. I hit up Lowe's. I don't know if you know the band Lowe's.
Lowe's, yeah, I do actually, yeah.
Yeah, I hit up the singer from Lowe's.
Yeah, I see why.
And they couldn't do it because they were in a deal. And I was like, okay, cool, sweet.
Okay, yeah.
And then recently, I think it was about 6 months from when we'd been put in touch through Mika.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck it, let's send it to Blythe.
Sweet.
Because I initially asked Hayla. I was like, Hayla, who do you want to re-sing your song?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was like, okay, we wrote this together, but it's your voice on it. Who do you want? And she said Lowe's.
Great.
And I was like, oh, cool. Like, let me try. And then you came in the picture. And how was that process for you? Singing somebody else's song and also learning to enjoy a record?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I heard the tune, I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, oh. Hearing Hayla sing it, I was like, mostly I hear vocals and I'm like, yeah, I could do as good a version of that. Every voice is completely unique and every voice offers something different. But when I heard Hayla on the tune, I was like, I can try. Which I did. And I tried to just obviously you were in a predicament with it. She was in a predicament with it. So my job then is to try and help you guys out. And I love the song so much. And I love You Alone so much as well, that I really wanted to do a good job. So I was like, don't let the imposter syndrome rock up here. Let's just learn the song, really enjoy the process. Sorry.
Sorry.
And and just try not to think too much. Just feel it and learn it and do it. And I find re-sings way harder than a normal vocal because you're dealing with comparing yourself to another voice.
Yeah.
But in a way, it kind of makes you work harder, because you've got probably a really great standard of music that you're trying to at least come alongside.
Yeah.
And so there's sort of no resting on any laurels. And it certainly wasn't, that was certainly the case for Halo. It was like, okay. But I did manage to do it in I think it took me maybe a couple of days. Like I like to sort of lay down vocals and I'll be doing, because I've got lots of different tones within my apparatus.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, does it need a little bit more of this or a little bit more of this? And then I'm looking for that sweet spot at the same time as trying to just be in flow as well and not thinking about things too much. So I'll just be singing and I'll listen back and like finding that sweet spot, and then I'll usually leave it a day and then come back with fresh ears and just be like, oh yeah, it was that take for sure.
Yeah, because you absolutely nailed it. And I think the process between you and I was like very much like do you want me to take my own take on it, or do you want me to be an emulation of Halo?
I was like, what do you
And
want?
it's always
You're
like
like, the same.
yeah, just give me that.
Okay.
I think it's so hard as like the demotitis is so real. Like once you've lived with a song for so long, to then hear like a new take on it is, it's really hard, but it's also, I think that's why artists hate A&Rs so much, because having, or sometimes really don't like feedback a lot of the times, because it's so hard to hear it differently when you've worked on it for so long.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But I think there's also a level of like needing to open your mind as an artist to go, actually, somebody might be right here. Somebody else's opinion might be right, and we're not the be all and end all of this.
Yeah. And sometimes my opinion is not the be all and end all of this. Yeah. Especially on one's own voice or one's own work.
Totally.
Yeah. Being open to the flow of life, like the chaos of life. And sometimes that can be other people's opinions getting in there. But then there are other times when I've looked back on my life and I've been like, yeah, I should have put my fucking foot down.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think realistically, like, again, it goes back to like being confident in yourself for what you want and who you are as a human being. And I think sometimes we can all be guided in the wrong direction with other people's hidden agendas, or other people's agenda, not even hidden agendas, other people's agendas.
Yeah. That's why I love working now. You know, I'm 38, getting on for 40. I love, as much as like people are like, well, there's a big person in my head who's like, you should stop making music because you're too old. But actually, like,
Never.
You learn so much through experience. And like, I mean, I feel like I'm only really just understanding how that process of like having gone through experiences of going in this situation, I'm going to defer to their opinion, and I'm going to log how I feel in all the idiosyncratic ways that I'm feeling right now. And then the next time you work, you're like, oh no, I remember I made that mistake last time. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm really starting to understand how to make those good decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of working as a slightly older person, is you have all those experiences.
I totally agree. And I think it's weird how culture tells you that you have to be successful at a young age. And I think you generally, if you actually look at who's successful, pop's very different, right? Pop is a commercialized commodity that is so like generated for the young audience. So you kind of have to put a young person in front of it, right?
Yeah.
But I think you look at majority of artists, they're old. Majority of business men and women are old.
Yeah.
Majority of people that have money, that have success, that have mental success, that have everything outside of the commerce is older because they've had more experience. And I think it's so important to remember that is like you can literally have success at any time. And it's also the only way to have success is by starting and not giving up to a certain extent. I think I totally agree with you on that. It's really hard though, right? It's really hard when you see people younger than you be more whatever you class as success, more successful than you. It's very hard to see that sometimes. And it's very hard in an industry, especially I can imagine, especially for women, where age is or has always been something that people have talked about as a bad thing the older you get. But it's just, in my opinion, it's just utter bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, there is a certain, it's not like I don't understand the beauty of seeing a young person, who happens to have like got their, like, and there are some incredible young people who just happen to have like a really amazing way of expressing themselves even from such a young age, and
Yeah.
are like really in themselves and stuff. But for me, you know, the way my journey has worked and the way that my brain works is that I've needed to take quite a long time to actually get to the point where I'm able to function, I guess,
Yeah.
as my full, like in my full glory, um, with pressure on. And you know, you see, yeah, again, you see young people who are able to do their thing, they're able to be under pressure and it doesn't bother them. You know, some personalities are just, or brain wirings are different. But to preclude people because, you know, they've entered their 40s, especially for women. And like I said to
Yeah.
Sarah, I was like, I am gonna like champion. That's one of my things, not like just me. Obviously, there's loads of women doing that at the moment. And I feel like I've seen way more women my age who are like sticking with art and producing and writing and doing all kinds of stuff. It's way more visible now. But yeah, I'm really happy to be that person because I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, like young women, you don't need to worry that your career has to end at like 33 or whatever, you know, like, yeah. I mean, obviously we have lots of people who are doing that, but there's this kind of underlying
Always.
idea that one
Always.
shouldn't be trying to bust into the industry once you reach a certain age. You know, you get famous when you're young and then you get to write like 22 albums and then you die, you know. But if you haven't made it by the time you're like, you know, made it, what does that mean? But like, if you haven't reached a certain level of success in the industry by the time you're blah blah, then you should probably give up, you know.
Yeah, it's utter bullshit.
Or you shouldn't turn away from another career into music, you know. And I know someone, I was teaching someone who's just doing that now, and she's an amazing writer, and she's moved away from a corporate job and realized that she's always wanted to do music, and she's like,
Yeah.
a bit younger than me, but like it's going to take time. And yeah, I'm just loving the fact that she's like, yeah, she's fucking nailing it. It's great.
I think realistically, without sounding hippy dippy, the more art that gets created, the better the world is,
Agreed.
and the more personal people can be with each other, realistically. And I think that's important. And the more connection that art brings people together, art makes connections between people, and I think that's what we need more so than ever, realistically.
Yeah, as much connection as possible. Yeah, and then that kind of brings it full circle actually back to our first conversation, because I worry that there isn't enough of an emphasis on connection and
I agree.
giving young people the ability to, you know, make music, make art. I'm hoping the Labour government will change that in education, but it has really been shat on by the Tories, like the idea that of like taking art seriously as a part of our societal, the fabric of our society. And it's like, oh, they'll do it anyway. But when you create such a kind of horrible environment to try and make work, then you end up having people who are much more forced into the commercial vein, you know, where when there isn't a general support for people starting out to explore their creativity and explore their artistry, and then you've got that coupled with social media, which makes people, I think sometimes it can open people's minds and sometimes it can close people's minds. I worry a little bit about us looking after that ability
I
for
agree.
people to have time to connect and learn about themselves and make art rather than like product.
Totally agree. I think it's the most beautiful way to end as well, because I think it makes people go and actually think about things, and it's a full circle moment.
Wankers.
Yeah, I love it. How can people follow you? How can people like get in touch with you? How can people listen to your music?
Oh yeah, should have prepped this. Yeah, I'm on Instagram and I'm on the TikToks. Yeah, what am I? I'm Blythe_music_official.
I'm pulling it up. Yeah, Blythe_music_official.
Thanks,
There we
Will.
go.
And that's why I need a manager.
Go follow her. Her music is insane. It's Blythe. It's Blythe.
Yeah.
Currently has a record out with Sunny Federa that's doing very well, but also has a record with me
coming up.
It's
out.
It's out.
It's already out.
Go and also, spread the word. Also, you are on the album as well. On the closing track of the album, which is amazing.
I love that tune too.
Mate, I love you. Great to meet you this week. Great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for letting me use your voice. It's amazing.
Thanks for having me. This is so nice.
Big love. Keep safe. See you soon.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. Big love to Blythe for coming on. Thanks to everybody for listening. Really appreciate it. Please share. Please subscribe. Please give us some comments. Till next time, people.